Welcome, everyone, to Post Crisis Chat. I am your co host, Randy, and with me is the ever present co host,
Dave, and you can call me Cookie.
Excellent Cookie.
And if you are a first-time viewer, welcome. Please remember to like the video, and if you like our content, please smash that subscribe button, smack that bell notification so you can be notified next time when we upload for new episodes. We will really appreciate it.
Hey, if you're not a first time viewer, welcome back. We are so thankful to have you here.
And please check out our socials. You can find us on Blue Sky and on Patreon. Patreons get access to exclusive content, so that's always a bonus. Make sure you give us that money.
Absolutely. We could always use more money. Please. It's hard to get by in today's world without it. Also, please be advised in the issue that we are talking about today, we will be talking about spoilers for the issue. Now, granted, the issue is over 40 years old. So, if you're getting spoiled at this point, that's kind of on you. But I didn't want to let you know about that. What issue are we talking about today, Cookie?
I believe we are kicking off today with Saga of the Swamp Thing, issue 25.
Excellent. Yes, that's what I have also. We're on the same page, always a positive thing. And this issue is written by Alan Moore, pencils by Stephen Bissette, and inks by John Totleben. We've done a lot of these issues so far, and I hope we're saying John's name right, but if we're not, let us know in the comments, please.
Yeah, we can always stand to be corrected because, Lord knows we are not the brightest light bulbs out there.
All right, we'll dive into this. So we open up. Jason Blood arrives in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is near where the Swamp Thing lives. He met a man on the bus who this man appeared to be an awful person based on the things that Jason Blood was able to tell this man about himself. And then he goes on to tell the man that he's going to die tonight when he gets impaled by a swordfish. So it's going to be that kind of an issue.
That was also, to me, that was very interesting because impaled by a swordfish, I instinctively was like, okay, how is this going to pan out? What do we got planned here? Because that is such a unique style of a death.
And I have to wonder when Alan Moore is writing this, he's talking about something that's going to happen later in the book. And did he write the ending first and then go back to the beginning? Or did he write, you're going to die by swordfish, and then somehow he had to figure out how he was going to do it?
That's an interesting question. I mean, the little bits I know, I've never written a mystery. And as people know that have been watching this channel for the while now, I'm a wannabe writer. I've never tried it, but I do know that a lot of writers that do mysteries tend to work backwards. You have the crime and then kind of work your way back to kind of like establish how it's going to happen.
That seems the easier way to do it.
Yeah, I would assume that's how he does it, but Alan Moore is a very complicated man, to say the least.
I hesitate to call him a man because he is a wizard, which I think transcends gender.
I'm still going to call him a man until he tells me not to. Okay, until he commands me not to.
That's fair. All right, and quick question. Do you know who Jason Blood is?
Yeah, definitely. The demon is a character that I've tried to get into throughout several years and stuff. And I mean, I know he was created by Jack Kirby. I've gone back and looked at those books. Art is beautiful, story a little weird. He's a character that's really hard to find a good creative team on. So I was excited when Blood showed up.
You were. I was not. I hate Jason Blood. I hate. Is it Etrigan or Etrigan?
I think it's Etrigan.
Etrigan with a soft kind of a G.
No, the hard G. Etrigan.
Etrigan. Okay, it's Etrigan. So, see, I don't even know. This is my least favorite character in the entire DC universe. I hate the rhyming demon. Absolutely hate him.
That's a thing that always kind of pulled me out of it. What really got me into the demon was the DC animated universe. When he would show up in Batman the Animated Series, and then I believe he did maybe one or two appearances in Justice League. I believe it was Unlimited he was in.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah, and it's like in those appearances, he was fantastic. I loved. That's where my interest in the demon really began.
The hoops they have to jump through in any medium to make this guy rhyme, it's annoying. It takes me out of the story. I don't like it. I don't like the demon. I don't like any of it. I Anyway, we'll get more into that when the
Well,
demon actually shows up. I like Jason Blood more than I do the demon. Go ahead.
to be fair, yeah, okay, I do like Jason Blood a little bit more. Okay, but the question to ask yourself is, and I know you, and we're gonna pull the curtain back a little bit for the fans. Would you like the demon better if instead of poetry rhyming scheme, he was rapping? If he came out busting rhymes like Busta Rhymes, would you be more like, okay, the demon's kind of cool?
If they could find a writer who could write like a rapper, maybe, but the poetry is just awful. I mean,
Uh,
I don't know. Maybe it's because it's old. No, it's not because it's old, because I didn't like it in the cartoons either. I recently watched Justice League Dark Side War, maybe? It's a cartoon on HBO Max. It includes
okay.
the demon as one of the supporting characters, but he does show up quite a bit. I hated them then too, and that's a relatively new movie. So yeah, no, I don't like the guy. Anyway,
Wow. Okay.
let's get back to the book we're talking about. So Jason Blood stops at an occult bookshop and store asking about Ouija boards, and the sales clerk says he does not sell very many of them. Blood then asks about a painting, calling it a Goya. Did you know who Goya is?
I do not know who Goya is. I believe that's the artist.
It
That
is.
part I picked up on, but I'm not familiar with that particular artist.
As part of this episode, I went and looked it up myself, researched it. There was a man named Francis Goya. He was a painter. He was born in the 1700s. He died in the 1800s. In the book, Jason mentions that he was shown the original sketches of this painting by Goya himself, which is indicating that Jason Blood is at least 160 years old.
Believe he's older than
Oh,
that
I'm sure he
because
is.
from the little bit that I know about the character, I believe he was a part of the Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah,
He had
I
something to do with
saw.
that era.
I think I saw that somewhere when I was doing a little bit of research for this episode. Was that the demon was somehow connected with Merlin and Arthur?
Yeah,
Anyway, I don't care. I don't like the demon. Whatever. But I did find it interesting that Alan Moore expected us to know who Goya is. And I mean, this was written when we didn't have the internet and we could just go look it up really easily.
yeah. I can see where that may bother some people because it can get kind of frustrating of like, okay, you're name dropping stuff that probably most people don't recognize or know. I'm used to it though because James Robinson does that a lot in Starman. So when I read this, that kind of gave me flashbacks to Starman, and that was one of the things I liked about that book was the kind of charm of like, oh, okay, well, you're throwing in little like references here and there, and it's kind of cute and kind of cool. So I didn't mind it. It was kind of a nice little tie-in, but I can't say I was going to do the homework and go look it up.
After Jason gets done making his purchase, he goes to check into a hotel. The narrator of the book, calls him the devil as he is checking into his hotel. I found that interesting.
Yeah, I did too, because I kind of wondered, was it like were they expecting people who don't know who Jason Blood is to be reading this and think, "Oh crap, is this really the devil?" Or was it just a clever little play on like, well, he's a demon, so he's a devil? I mean, it's you could kind of go multiple ways on that, and I'm kind of curious of what they were thinking. So I feel like at this era in comic books, most people, at least reading Swamp Thing, have a general idea of who all these characters are.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And it was interesting to me because, and weird coincidence, I'm wearing a Dungeons and Dragons t-shirt tonight. It was interesting to me because I play Dungeons and Dragons, and in that game, especially in the older versions that I play, there is a difference between demons and devils. It's not important to get into right now on the show because this is not a Dungeons and Dragons show. But I just found it interesting that in my head, there's always that separation between demon and devil.
And I agree. I mean, I've done a lot of over the years doing a lot of like research on demons and angels and all that kind of stuff. And typically, yeah, there is a difference between a demon and a devil. So I think a lot of people probably think that same thing.
So anyway, we switch back to Swamp Thing, who is 40 miles away and is hanging out underwater. In the image where we first see him, it is a full page splash. Swamp Thing is drawn very muddy and blobby and with no details. Yet at the bottom right hand corner of the page, and also kind of to the left and back a little ways, I mean, right at the forefront of the page, there is the most detailed catfish I have ever seen in a comic book. Like, and I kind of complained about this before. It's like some parts of the art are so detailed and other parts are not. And I don't understand why our focal point is on a catfish and not the main character.
Maybe Bissette's a big fishing person. Maybe he likes to go out fishing.
Could be. That would make that part make sense, but it doesn't make it make sense in all the other places. I don't know. It's just Swamp Thing looked kind of bland and plain to me. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's a little weird because it's like there's times where the detail on Swamp Thing is really really good, and then there's times where, like you said, it looks kind of like okay, like I'm not sure what you're going for here. He just looks like a green blob.
Exactly,
So
exactly. I don't get it.
no, the
Um,
art,
sorry, go ahead.
the art. I was gonna say the art is it's very inconsistent. I mean, there are times there because there's a couple points I'm going to point out in this book that the art was absolutely gorgeous. There's some panel work that I absolutely loved, and then there's times where it felt like, yeah, this is not like top tier level. Like it feels like he phoned it in on a couple of panels too.
Yeah, exactly. Getting back to the book, we do see Swamp Thing come up and grab Abby's foot and drag her into the water. They are apparently playing the Creature from the Black Lagoon game with each other, which was a nice callback to old horror movies, I thought.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I thought that was because I mean I'm an old school horror fan. I like every Halloween season I watch all the classic Universal monster movies and such. And Creatures one I grew up absolutely loving. And I also thought it was kind of funny because I remember even playing that as a kid sometimes. Of like we didn't call it Creature from the Black Lagoon, but you go to the swimming pool and you swim underneath your friends and pull them under and stuff. And hold them under the water until the bubbles stop, and then try to revive them.
Yes, that last part's important. Abby at that point notes that Swamp Thing was underwater for a half an hour, asking if he really doesn't need to breathe, and he replies that he has given up the habit of breathing as it was unnecessary. I think that's more Alan Moore showing us he is starting to get rid of his humanity and embrace who he is as a servant and protector of the green.
Yeah, I thought that was like you're getting a little drops here and there of him doing that, which I like that it's not just because I feel like modern comics you would get one issue where it's like he's going through the process of shedding off his humanity and becoming whatever it is he's going to become, and I like that this is drawn out. It's happening over like a number of issues, so that's like detail.
I haven't really read any modern Swamp Thing. We will get there someday, many years in the future. But that's an interesting difference there that I didn't know about.
I don't know about modern Swamp Thing doing it, but I just feel like this modern comics in general would
Ah,
be
gotcha.
more because like you see how they draw out a storyline to like I said like 6 issues for trades, but then at the same time it's like they don't draw out elements like that. It's like whatever happens in that particular trade, that's where it all happens, and then they move on to the next like big bad kind of thing.
That does make sense. And I agree with you. I have seen that in a lot of modern comics. Swamp Thing mentions that Matt has not come to visit. To me, this is just Alan Moore heaping more crap on top of Matt, so we like him even less. Like, we already don't like him. We already know he is not a good person. Was it really necessary to heap more on top?
I don't know if it was necessary or not, but it's like at this point, there's been so much crap dumped on top of him that if Matt becomes a superhero or a supervillain, I feel like he's going to be named Captain Cleveland Steamer because he's just like, I mean, this guy is like becoming the worst human being possible.
He really is. And then Abby indicates that her and Matt are not spending a lot of time together, and she seems to think it's her fault. This is further indication to me, going all the way back to her childhood, where she was called Crazy Abby, and how really it messed up a sense of who she is. And I go back to believing that she just latched onto Matt because he was maybe the first person to show her affection, even though he is obviously not the right person for her.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's Moore's doing a good job of playing with Abby, her mental state, because even like what happens in this issue, it logically makes sense of why she's going to do some of the things that she does.
Yeah, I think that he really did get into Abby's head, and that we can, as the readers, we can see that Matt is obviously the bad partner in the relationship, the one who's not doing what he should be doing, and yet she's sitting there blaming herself.
Yeah. Again, I think we mentioned it back like when we first started. I would be very curious to find out what Matt was like before Alan Moore, because it just feels like either he didn't like this character and wanted to take out his frustrations on this character, or he just like decided, well, no, this is I don't have any use for him, so let's try and write him off in a way like this or something. Because it
Right.
just feels like there's a vendetta there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. And then we change subjects and we find out that Abby's gotten a job at a center for autistic children. I guess it's a home for autistic children. They don't live with their parents.
It took me a while to kind of figure out what because the name's like Elysium Lawn or something like that, and it was kind of a weird name. It took me a second to figure out what it was called, and then it just kind of threw me off. And then when she goes to the job, that to me is where things start to get kind of interesting. Like I wasn't sure how I was going to like this issue until that stuff starts to pick up, and I'm like, all right, this is kind of intriguing. Let's see where you're going with this.
And then right after that, we get a flashback where we meet Paul, who's an autistic child who is obsessed with how things are spelled. He wants everything to be spelled the right way, or the Monkey King is going to come and kill you.
And so here's the thing: like, if I would have read this maybe 15 years ago, I would have been like, oh, okay, this Monkey King thing is kind of like, this is weird. But now that I know about the story of Journey to the West, whenever I hear Monkey King, that's immediately what I go to. So when I finally see the Monkey King in this, I'm like, that's not the Monkey King I know.
Gotcha. And then we learn that Paul's parents were killed in an accident.
That was that was interesting because I didn't pick up on anything with that. Like I just figured, okay, accident, whatever. I thought maybe it was going to turn into something like we'll get an explanation, but it also kind of feels like there's a little bit more to that, and you
Oh, for
start to
sure.
see it with other kids.
They call it a wiring accident without really offering any kind of explanation for what that is. And it happens several times in the book. They call it a wiring accident. And like, what is a wiring accident? And but it's always left vague. And we find out later
Mm-hmm.
why. Then we switch back to Abby, who takes her leave of Swamp Thing. And as she's leaving, she notices that Swamp Thing's skin color is changing. Swamp Thing indicates that this is because autumn is coming on, and Abby is not sure to whether or not to take him seriously. I think he was serious,
Yeah, I took him serious. I mean, he's a plant for crying out loud. It's like, what the hell do you think a plant's going to do? It's going to change during the autumn.
but Abby continues to insist on calling him Alec like he is a human being.
Yeah, well, it seems like Abby's very stuck in her ways. Like she wants to be able to connect with him on a human to human level, and it's going to be difficult because he's not a human now. He is a plant, which if they end up falling in love, which it feels like we're being teased that there is a little bit of a connection there between the two of them, it's going to make things very weird and awkward for the future of that relationship.
I don't know how far ahead you've read, but let's cut off that line of thinking for the moment, just because spoilers for future episodes. So we'll come back to that later. We switch back to Jason Blood, who is at an auction where he purchases a Ouija board. The board is said to have belonged to a family where the parents died, and they say the kid went to a quote asylum. It is clear that Paul is the child that's being talked about, and it was his parents who died using the Ouija board.
Which kind of goes back to the wiring thing. Like I'm not finding the connection here of what that has to do with their death.
It's to me, it's just like a random. It was a wiring problem in their house or something like that. It's super vague, so nobody has to get into the details that this family was killed by something with claws and a mouth.
Yeah, it feels like a cover up. To me, it feels like there was a cover up there because I don't understand how, unless the house burned down, which I don't recall, unless I missed it, I don't recall them saying that the
Always
house
a
burned down at
wiring
all.
accident.
Hmm. That's
But
that,
yeah,
that's
no, it's
interesting.
totally so they could cover it up. Then we get more of Blood telling random people their future. He tells a man he's having a discussion with that the man is going to be in jail for manslaughter soon. He also mentions that the man's wife did not like the furniture that the man picked out, patio furniture it was. And then we cut to a scene where this man is tying a swordfish to the top of his car.
I really liked because I was waiting for the payoff from the very beginning with the swordfish of like, okay, is he setting up for something or was that just a random throwaway line in the very beginning? Because like you don't know. But then once we get the manslaughter thing, I'm like, okay, are we starting to weave this all together? Then we see the swordfish, and at that point, I was like, oh crap, okay, I see what's happening here.
Exactly. And I will give Alan Moore this. He does a great job of helping us figure out exactly who Jason Blood is. You've got the Jason Blood being very, very old. You've got him predicting the future. You've got him knowing that the man's wife did not like the patio furniture and thus did not buy the patio furniture and bought a swordfish instead. It just shows us what Jason Blood is capable of. It's a really good way to introduce him. It's too bad the other half of him is that stupid demon. But we'll get there. We switch back to Matt and Abby, and Matt is being incredibly unsupportive of Abby's new job.
Yeah,
Let's
this
let's
total
crap on
scumbag.
Matt some more, because I mean he's a
Yeah,
bad guy. We get it.
he yeah he's not coming, and it gets worse. It's
It
like
does.
it gets worse within like the next like 4 or 5 panels.
Yeah, because he animates Abby's clothes and tells her clothes to quote get down on your knees and apologize end quote. Like, what kind of super messed up stuff is this guy? I don't even want to know.
To me, it's the perfect example. Like if I want to teach somebody how to be in a relationship and how to not be in a relationship, I'm going to have them read this and be like, don't do what Matt did.
Exactly right. Be supportive of your partner when they do something, especially if it's
Exactly,
something that's
especially
going to bring money into the house.
yeah, or even if it's something stupid, because then it's like makes them feel better about themselves, and then you get like a reward of like maybe she'll bake you a cake or something.
Exactly. So anyway, we switch back to a past scene where we see Paul's parents playing with a Ouija board. They spell out, I'm going to pronounce this as best I can, Amix Hideo Chimera. And that's what they spell out on the Ouija board. And apparently, Chimera is a DC Universe character that I had never heard of before.
I have no idea about that. I'll have to do some research on it. I kind of wondered if even the Monkey King was like, I'm assuming that might be the Monkey King. I don't know. I was wondering if like this is the character more kind of pulled out from the archives.
Yeah, maybe. So if you know who this Chimera character is, please let us know in the comments because we don't. I was able to do a little bit of research and find out he's somehow connected to Jason Blood, but I didn't really go that in depth with it. So if you know more, please let us know in the comments. We really want to know who this is.
Very curious because Moore is one of those guys that's another thing I like about like James Robinson and some other writers is that they will pull characters out from the archives that like you don't even remember existed, and it's always interesting like when they do stuff like that.
For sure. Grant Morrison's really good about doing that too.
Yeah,
Anyway, so don't want to get too far off topic. We then see a white monkey like creature showing up and killing Paul's parents. Which, now that you mention that, I think that may be Chimera. I think you may be right about that. I didn't think about it at the time I was reading, but I think you could be onto something there.
that's just a thought that literally popped in my head now. It's not even in my notes or anything. It just like, oh, okay, maybe that's who that could be. Because I
Okay.
couldn't pronounce the name. I tried doing it, but I felt like I was choking on my own tongue and saliva at the time.
And I'm probably saying it wrong. If I am, let me know in the comments. Let me know the right way to say it. I really want to know. So then we see Paul upstairs in his bed while his parents are getting killed by the monkey thing. Then we learn that the monkey thing comes to Paul's bedroom and kisses Paul's hand. That was weird. Symbolic of something, I think, but I'm not really sure what, other than the monkey thing seems to revere Paul for some reason.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that, and especially because like my initial thought, I'll explain when we get towards the end, so I don't give anything away too early. But like I had an initial thought that I was like, okay, well maybe it's this, but then something happens at the end of the book that I'm like, okay, it doesn't appear we're going that direction, so it's very much Paul related. So now I'm curious of what does Paul have to do with this? Is this going to be like a Stanley and his monster kind of situation? Speaking of pulling out shit from the the archives and stuff, but that's kind of what it felt like to me was like, is there going to be a connection between the two of them?
Hmm. Yeah. And we kind of see later that there is, but yeah, don't want to get too much into spoilers yet. We'll get there. And then we switch back to Swamp Thing in the swamp, and he kind of just goes over the fact that he feels something isn't right. Something is wrong with the world. Something is bothering him, but he's not quite sure what.
Yeah, and I believe this was the part where it was the 2-page spread with Swamp Thing's face in the center, and then it kind of like goes around almost. I think it's like the panels kind of go like one way and then kind of arch over the other way.
Mm.
Is that because like that layout was absolutely beautiful? I mean, like the layout itself, but then also just the story that's happening in those panels. Because I believe that's when he does the flashback to him being Alec again, and then the like you see panel of Swamp Thing walking, Alec walking on fire, Swamp Thing walking again, Alec walking on fire again. It's just a beautiful layout. I thought that was some of the best artwork I've seen in this book in like probably like 4 or 5 issues now.
Yeah, if I'm recalling the right thing, I did enjoy that artwork as well. And it reminded me of something modern that I've been reading lately. And actually, I think probably the modern comic I was reading was likely inspired by this. But there's a book called Assorted Crisis Events. It's out on Image Comics. I forget off the top of my head who the writer is. Let me know in the comments. But there's a page in the book where it's a spiral around the page, and you literally have to turn the book to read it. And you just keep turning the book as you spiral into the middle of the page. And that's what this kind of reminded me of, like a proto version of that. And I really do think that the page I read in the modern book was inspired by the Swamp Thing book.
I could see that. I think a lot of modern artists are inspired by a lot of those artists from the 70s and 80s got very experimental. Like if you ever read Court of Owls storyline from Snyder and Capullo,
I have read
like
it.
there's a lot. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of stuff where you got to like turn the book upside down. It's like you're doing kind of the same thing. It's like it was annoying the first time I read it, and then I started to appreciate. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get switched back to Jason Blood playing with the Ouija board, and he somehow figures out that Paul's parents spelled out the name Chimera on it. And he realizes that this happening is how Chimera entered the world. So I guess it just didn't click in my brain as I was reading it. I wrote it in my notes, but it didn't really like absorb the idea that Chimera is the monkey. So that's obviously who it is now in hindsight, looking back at it.
Okay. Yeah, I miss that too. And I literally just like so I have this story fresh in my mind. I literally read that before we started recording.
Mm.
And even then, I feel like that's kind of the problem sometimes with some of these comics is they can get there's a lot to take in and you can skip over stuff very easily.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I didn't even internalize that, but I wrote it down last night when I was doing this. So I realized it and somehow still didn't realize it at the same time. We switched to Abby, who has just coincidentally met the man Jason Blood was talking to at the bus station. The man tries to hit on Abby, and she says she has to go. The man follows her, and she has to tell him to get lost. He keeps insisting that they go on a date, which reminds me of what you were saying earlier about how if you're in a relationship, share this comic to somebody and say, don't act like that. And it makes me think, if you're trying to hit on a woman, maybe don't act like that.
Yeah. But you do have to remember it is a different time in like the 80s. We weren't thinking like that. It was just more guys were a little bit more aggressive and things. So it's like it took us a while to kind of catch up to like, basically pull our heads out of our butt.
Yeah, no doubt. The man who would not take no for an answer then gets speared by the swordfish. The man who we previously saw bought the swordfish at the auction. Apparently, the fish was not tied down well. And we see that Jason Blood has accurately predicted both of these men's futures and that they are somehow connected to each other because the man would not have gotten killed by the swordfish if he weren't harassing Abby. So it kind of ties it all in together.
Yeah, it was kind of it almost for a second made me wonder like did all of that have to happen so that Abby would like kind of be there and end up meeting Jason Blood like it I was kind of curious of how that could have like maybe played into something.
Yeah, did he predict the future or did he make the future by doing it so that he could talk to Abby when she was in that state of shock and make her more likely to speak with him because she's thinking about the fact that she just saw a dude get impaled by a swordfish in the middle of the street.
He is a demon, so I mean, why wouldn't put it past him to essentially do that?
That is super insightful, and that's why I love doing the show because we talk about things and I realize things that I missed while I was reading it. We switch back to Paul, who is encountering the Monkey King again at the home where the autistic children stay. The monkey once again seems to defer to Paul. Paul does not give the monkey any orders, so the monkey decides to go and start killing and eating the other children in the home with Paul. I don't understand why the monkey continues to defer to Paul.
I don't either. And so this is the point I was trying to bring up earlier, was that I thought maybe the monkey was going to be sympathetic to children. It was going to be like, okay, it kills, adults, maybe, bad adults or something along those lines. But once it started to kill the children, I was like, okay, there's something off here. But I also find it interesting that this asylum, this Elysian lawn that they're in, it was kind of intriguing that it seems like a lot of the kids have not just tragic backstories, but there's a little bit of a darkness to them because the one girl, I think her name was Rebecca. Was it Rebecca or Barbara? Something like that. I forget what her name was. It was the first girl that the monkey was going to. How she had tried to smother her brother with
Mm.
basically a plastic bag, and then it kind of feels like there's going to be a lot of trauma with these kids, and that's something I think it even said the monkey was feeding off of their fear.
Interesting. I think I missed that line. And, it's hard to catch everything, but that makes starts to make a little bit more sense about why the monkey is where he is.
It definitely kind of starts to kind of make a little bit more sense. And I almost missed the line too, because the way that they did it, I thought was hilarious because I'm reading the panels and that line was like in the outside of one of the panels in the white space. So I didn't realize that I was supposed to read that at some point. I just kind of read down in the angle and then I look up and like, oh, there it is. So I go back and read it and I realize, oh, I was supposed to read that before I moved down.
I bet you that's why I missed it too. I bet that's it.
Yeah, I completely skipped over it the first time and I just caught it by accident.
That's the end of our issue. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 swordfishes. This issue to me feels like mostly set up for the next one. I also did discard half a swordfish for the awful cover. Stephen Bissette should not be allowed to draw covers.
Yeah, his covers were not that great. I want to say they might get better later on, but I don't even recognize, I don't even remember if they do or not.
We'll get there.
This is going to be the first time I think in a few issues now that I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to give it 3 swordfishes. And I'm giving it 3 because I felt this is the best version of Jason Blood I've ever read. It felt like there was a commanding presence, but also a little bit of respectability and nobility to Jason Blood that I don't often see.
Okay, that's fair. We can disagree. It's okay. We're friends. Friends disagree. So thank you everybody for joining us. If you want to read along with us, check the link. We have, fingers crossed, Amazon affiliate link that you can click on. I'm going to try to stick the absolute Swamp Thing down there. I'm going to put the box set with all 6 trade paperbacks, and I'm going to even put the individual trade paperback that we were reading. So, if you can, click the link so we can keep bringing you this post-crisis DC universe where we talk about what's happening in the universe. I'm really enjoying hanging out with my friend Cookie here and talking to all of you. We're super thankful to have you.
I mean, if you guys are watching and you guys enjoy the content, we're going to continue bringing it to you because, I got nothing better to do and I love entertaining people. So I'm here to laugh and read comic books.
Good deal. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. That'll be it for tonight. Have a good night.